What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of U4 Fate Strange Fake. This is episode 13, also the last episode of the season, and with me, as always, I have Bluespade.
hmm yeah, a lot to go over, and especially a lot of twists,
This is
turns,
definitely the most fan
that
service
shocking
heavy
ending.
episode because of all the references to Fate Zero, and I mean, I
Yeah,
already saw the
so
images online, but it was pretty interesting to see some of the scenes from Fate Zero like redone in the Strange Fake art style. I don't know how you felt about
yeah, like having
seeing Artoria and how she. I mean, she doesn't look like really different, but it was kind of like she definitely looks pretty different from how she looked. And
yeah, I mean, well, of course they had to match the art style
yeah,
for this show, so it's good. It would have been incredibly awkward if they implemented the
yeah, I
usual
definitely wouldn't
artwork
want them to
into this
do
show.
that. Um, so I'm glad they
Yeah,
like just
so so
reanimated all the scenes.
yeah, so what was it? Francesca and I think Francois, uh, like show Richard and Ayaka an illusion, basically just showing them I guess the ending of Fate Zero, um, pretty much reenacting the scene of like the that courtyard scene with Artoria, Gilgamesh, and
Alexander.
what was it, Alexander the Great. Yeah, and then of course, at the time, of course, with Artoria's regret of becoming king at the time, and then like wanting someone else to take over her mantle to lead Britain to like into a golden age. But of course, we also know that Alexander Ryder at the time criticized her decision to do that, and feeling like
Yeah,
she's nothing more than just that she should have just lived a more normal life than having having this great responsibility of leading an entire
yeah, like
country.
he felt initially like she wasn't really fit to be a king. But of course his opinion does like change. But yeah, that initially was what how he felt about her. And like that scene
Yeah,
was just to sort of show that each of them have different ideas of what it means to be a king, and they have different ways of ruling.
yeah, yeah. And then of course the division continues during the events of what was it, the fight in the against Castor in the Fuyuki River. Then there's the final scene in which Kiritsugu forces the command spells, for her to destroy the Holy Grail, which leads to the destruction of Fuyuki at the time. And and of course, they Francesca asks Richard, what he feels like, after seeing
Yeah,
Artoria in
basically,
this
like the
manner.
reason why she
It
showed
was
him
it was
that
at
was to
the
get
time.
him to, I guess, doubt Artoria or like think that, or to reveal that she wasn't like who exactly he thought she was. But at the same time, like to me, this didn't really make a lot of sense because, like Artoria was forced to destroy the Grail by Kiritsugu, but using a command spell, and she didn't want to do it. Like I felt like it would have made more sense if she had shown Richard like Artoria's actual past, like what really happened with, uh, like that scene where that Shiro sees in Stay Night with his when he sees her final moments, and like how the round table collapsed and what happened with that, like that maybe would have shaken his belief in her a little bit more than being shown what happened in Fate Zero.
Yeah, but surprisingly, this doesn't shake him in any way. He just basically just thanks Francesca for showing these visions of what happened, during the events. Even though if there was this, it was technically a low point for Artoria at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Before, I mean, we could assume, that the events of the original Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, or Heaven's Feel might have happened too. Um, I mean, that obviously, those events have changed Artoria's decisions, and thinking it in a way. But of course, I don't know if they were going to end up going to do that. But yeah, so this does go back to the fight between uh, Jester. I think, well, he's in two places at once. So Jester tries to turn like what was it, the false what was it, the false assassin against the others, that they will kill Tsubaki. And then there's the other point in which Hansa and Flat are facing off against Jester at the
Mm.
tower. But we also find out that that Flat ends up uh, using a trap by, I guess, revealing Jester's true name, which is Dorothea, which and he ends up using a spell to weaken him, Flat calls his master, who is also a dead apostle, which is Van Fem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not really familiar with like. I mean, maybe this is something in the Nasuverse lore, but I'm not really familiar with Van Fem, or some like, with him. Um.
Well, according to people on Twitter, they say that he's an important character. I think in Tsukihime.
He
I
might have
think.
been referenced
Um,
offhand at some point, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, and of course, of course, Van Fem during the call he disowns Jester for his actions, and gives Flat his blessing to kill him. But of course, Jester ends up escaping, um, that trap, and declares that he'll end up killing every human in the world except for False Assassin. So yeah, and then he ends up summoning like these giant.
I think that was the
I
Pale
don't know
Rider that
what
we saw at
these
the end
things
of
are.
the last
The
episode.
pit, yeah, the pit. Like they're just like, well, there are various different, like multiple different, like giant skeleton looking Pale Rider. I don't know
Yeah,
things.
it just
I don't
looks
know
like a giant
what you call
skeletal
them.
woman.
Yeah. So Richard comes in. He ends up fighting off a lot of these giant skeletons, and then Tsubaki and Sigma see the battle unfolding outside, and then of course of course we do know like her parents are like revealed to be the most detestable people you know
Yeah.
imaginable. So like and yeah, so and realizing like how bad things have turned out, like Tsubaki decides to use two of her command spells and ask Pale Rider to change things back to normal, and basically tell her that she just wants to
I
be
think
alone.
it was Mr.
And
Black,
this, of course,
or the yeah.
yeah, Mr. Black. And then um, after this, everybody wakes up back into the real world, and then Tsubaki is, of course, back in the hospital in her coma, and of course, Assassin just chastises her parents for treating her in this way, and then she just goes off to go after Jester. Um, After this, Tsubaki's parents like basically they just show no remorse over what happened to their daughter, and they decide to cut off her hand to get her remaining command spell in order to control
Yeah,
the
like
serpent,
basically, I guess she
which
was. They really just saw her as a tool, so that she could like become like a Magus, and that she could transfer her Magus powers to them or something.
yeah, and but of course this this sets off Sigma in a negative way, and decides that he just straight up
Yeah,
kills
he
both
uses that crossbow
Tsubaki's
that he got in the
parents.
last episode and shoots them. Also, we should
Yeah,
mention too, like a
yeah,
pretty important detail. We speculated before because there was some people that mentioned that who the Sigma might be related to, but this episode pretty much confirms like who he is. That he is actually Maya's son, because we actually do see briefly, we see a glimpse of her. Like we see a couple scenes of her, and she even mentions that his mother was an assassin that, or was a mercenary, or was, yeah, she was an assassin that worked with, more or less worked with Kiritsugu. Like he doesn't specifically say Kiritsugu, but we know it's Kiritsugu. So yeah.
yeah. Well, I think I think she worked with a different organization before she ended up
Yeah.
working with Kiritsugu. Um, but yeah, and but of course, the following scene is the most shocking
Yeah, I
of
didn't
all.
expect this to happen. Like, so yeah, like, Flat and the others, that they're actually about to be like, I think back in when they were in the Reality Marvel, one of the giant skeletal women like crushed the tower they were in, so they all like used parachutes to get back to get to safety. And Flat ends up seeing what was it? He sees Ayaka, yeah, and
Ayaka?
he recognizes her as Ayaka, but Ayaka doesn't really seem to know who she really is. I mean, it was kind of implied before that she has some kind of amnesia or something. But she says, like, asks him if he can tell her who she really is. Um, and of course, right as Flat is about to reveal who she actually is, or he gets shot. Uh, and I at first I was like, okay, well maybe he'll live because he got shot in. I think he gets shot in the abdomen, but then he gets shot in the head, and yeah, he's pretty much dead.
And then he gets shot. He gets shot
Yeah.
multiple times soon after this, which I find it a little bit unnecessary. Um, so and it's of course it's being done on Faldeus's orders. For what reason, I don't know why. He just says like it's to relieve his stomach pain, which is messed up in a way.
I mean, it is a
But then
holy
all of a
grail
sudden,
war
like,
that would be the most efficient way to eliminate a master. I mean, it would be probably the same way Kiritsugu would have it done. That way, he doesn't actually have to
yeah,
engage them in a battle with servants. He could just snipe them or something.
yeah, it's just of all the characters, which I didn't think that was gonna die. I did not think Flat was gonna die in
Yeah,
this
well,
show,
especially considering
especially in
how
the
they
manner
made him
that he
out to
was.
be pretty important. I didn't think he was going to get killed that way, or he was going to get killed at all.
Yeah, and of course, and I think more chaos unfolds after that. I think I think Van Fem also. I think Van Fem has something to do with what happens afterwards. I think the camera starts cutting off in Valdez's headquarters. So apparently something is going to happen in regards to Flat's death after
Hmm.
this, and then the final scene ends with like I think the Watcher asking Sigma what he will do, um, and pretty much Sigma declares that he's going to destroy the Holy Grail himself, which
Yeah,
is
which would cause like
I mean
a
this
total chaos if he did, because if we remember what happened in Fate Zero, that is what happened. Um, so
yeah
yeah, that would not be good. Uh, but
no
yeah,
uh yeah but that's where the season ends. I mean we do have a confirmation that season 2 is in production, and they also confirmed that the final volume of Fate Strange Fake, and I think it was the light novel or the manga, is going to be released this
yeah, which
summer.
is pretty crazy
So,
because
but
like
of course,
I think it's been going since I think it was maybe 2015 or 2017, something like that. So uh,
yeah, and but yeah, at least I'm glad that they're gonna conclude that story later this summer. But yeah, this at least it won't create as much headaches. I mean, at least it won't create as much headaches as what we had to go through trying to wait for this series to to come
yeah,
out for the past like what
yeah,
three
like that's
years
the main
now.
concern if they do another season, is that hopefully there won't be like the same production issues they had with the season one, and with us having to wait forever for it to actually come out. Uh,
Unless they did it deliberately just for the
th-
for the
I
light
didn't
novel to
think about
catch
that.
up with
Yeah,
to
that's
this one.
possible.
But yeah, it might be possible,
So
but
I guess with the amount of
if
content it
the
seems
final
like they adapted in this season, they could maybe do like two more seasons or so with like the pace they were going. Because I think people said they adapted
yeah
about like five light novel volumes in this season, which is
yeah
pretty insane. I mean, that's a lot of content to adapt. So, um, I my main issue with them adapting so much of it is that they probably did skip over a lot of maybe some important stuff. Um, but for the most part, I did get the gist of what was going on. It's not like I was like totally confused. Um, but yeah, I think overall like it was actually a pretty good season. Like I honestly like haven't really liked a lot of the Fate spin-offs, but this was like actually pretty good. The only issue I had with it was more so like in the beginning where we weren't really sure what was going on, and it felt like it was like just a lot of setup for what was going to happen, and it didn't feel like it really got into like the main, like, you know, the main plot point, or at least in the first story arc, I guess, with Tsubaki being like, you know, maybe like halfway or maybe more than halfway through this season, is, you know, they revealed that was, I guess that was like the main thing a lot of them were after, was they were going after her. But it just spent a lot of time like introducing all these characters, and just going over like different, I guess, different lore bits of the series, like in what was happening with the Grail War, and it was really like focused on that for most of it. And then we don't really get into what I assume was like the main plot point of the first arc until like halfway or more than halfway through this season. Which I just kind of wish it was more established more so in the beginning, what, like, you know, what the point was, or what they were all trying to, you know, what they were doing. I just felt like it wasted, it kind of like spent a lot of time just setting up different things, and not so much, you know, actually like progressing the plot as much.
Yeah. Well, for this show, yeah, I did enjoy this show
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, of course, for people who haven't watched Fate, well, definitely watch Fate Zero first before watching this show, because of course this,
yeah.
uh, I would say this
That's
is
the other.
somewhat
Oh,
of
okay,
a like
that's the other thing I will bring up. Like if you don't have any background knowledge of Fate and some other elements of the Nasuverse, you will be a little bit confused as to certain plot points. I still think you could watch it, but yeah, well, like Blue Spade said, you should definitely at least have seen Fate Zero before watching this, because if there are like references to anything, it's definitely Fate Zero. Like there's a lot of references to Fate Zero, and there's a lot of characters that are connected to, there's one particular character who's directly connected to a character from Fate Zero. So yeah, that's definitely the series you should watch before having seen this.
yeah, it's yeah, definitely like one of the best spin-off shows that I've seen. Over Fate
Yeah,
Apocrypha and what was it, the Fate Extra anime series that we watched a
I
while
yeah,
back.
it's better than that.
Um,
I'd still like I had rewatched that like a while back, and I don't think it was as bad as I initially thought it was, but it still is also like a weird series too, with the way it was supposed to be almost like a sequel to the game and not actually like an adaptation of the game. And I think that was where it kind of went wrong, because like it was and not even just a sequel to the game, or it was more like a follow up to a bad ending of the game, which was just, it was really fucking weird.
yeah,
But I mean, this one
yeah,
doesn't do that, at least, where it's like it's just more so like a lot of references to different things in the Nasuverse and Fate.
yeah, yeah, and I would also recommend watching what was it, the Lord El Malloy the Second
Yeah,
Case
well,
Files,
also yeah, with the
just so
character of Flat,
people.
because people are gonna not really know much about Flat, and that goes a little bit, more into Flat.
Yeah, in regards to Flat, like I don't think like he's like dead canon wise. I think I'm pretty sure Strange Fake is more of its own
Mhm.
continuity. Um, so like because if I remember, like someone spoiled that Flat is still alive in the later storylines of the Lord Elmolay case files, which supersedes this timeline. So there's no way for Flat to be canonically dead. In I guess in just in one part of the storyline, it's hard to tell
Mhm.
because the timeline keeps branching out in one way or another, similar to like how Fate does with their three
Yeah.
routes.
Um. Yeah, but overall, like I guess I'd say this for me is like a 7. I really enjoyed it. It it was a little bit messy in the beginning, but I definitely got way better like halfway through it. Um, I'm definitely interested to see where the story goes. Uh, Definitely like the probably in my opinion the best spin-off so far for Fate. Um, but yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it though. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this this series, even though it was an agonizing long wait.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the
for this
worst thing
show to
about it was
finally
the
come
wait
out.
because I
Uh,
mean we had like a really promising first episode and well we had I mean really we had the prequel episode like Whispers of Dawn and then we had episode 1 so we had Whispers of Dawn which was pretty good and then episode 1 was also pretty good but then we had to wait like what like a year in between both and
yeah, yeah, one full year before the actual series
yeah.
finally came out. Um, and now like we do have confirmation that season 2 is going to be coming out, but not well. So far, no release date so far. But we do know that the light novel is going to officially finish sometime in the summer. Uh, if I were to probably guess, I would say the earliest we might get the second season would be maybe late next year or early 2028,
Yeah, that's probably a
maybe.
pretty good
I
guess.
don't know. It's yeah, because of about like how much they need to adapt, and because like adapting like a manga and a light novel are two different things, and they need it's because of course it's adapted differently in their own particular
Yeah,
way.
well, I mean, with the manga, it's like they already kind of have like storyboards to work with in a way. With like a light novel, all they really have to go on is like the text itself and just different illustrations they can pull from.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy this show. Hopefully, we'll get another announcement for season 2, coming up soon. But yeah, it'll probably be for another year, I
Yeah.
guess.
But yeah, guys. So that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.